All right, we are joined now by Dillard University political analyst, Dr. Robert Collins. Robert, thank you again for joining us. Your takeaway on today's historic verdict?
Well, of course, what you're going to see in all the newspapers tomorrow and hear from everybody is that this is a historic day because this is the first time that a former president of the United States has ever been convicted of a crime. So that's what everybody's going to be talking about tomorrow morning. Now, how will it affect our local politics, our state politics? Well, we've already heard statements from several of our members of Congress, and as expected so far, Congressman Scalise has basically reiterated the Trump talking points and talked about how it was rigged and he attacked the judge, et cetera. Basically took the standard Trump campaign talking points. Senator Cassidy released a statement saying he disagreed with the verdict, but his statement was a little more measured. He basically gave legal reasons why he disagreed with the verdict, and so I'm curious to see what the rest of the delegation says about the verdict. But I think we can pretty much predict that all the Republicans are going to come out and say that they disagreed with the verdict because they want to protect their political base.
And we heard from Governor Jeff Landry also calling this a sad or dark day for the country as a result of this verdict as well. As far as his base, a lot of people, the thought is that this will bolster his base, whether he was found guilty or not guilty. Do you believe that will be the case?
Well, in the state of Louisiana, it's not going to change the fact that we are a red state, and if the election were held today or tomorrow or the day after that, Donald Trump would still carry Louisiana because opinions here are pretty much locked in. This is a Trump state. So I'm not really, that's not what I'm really looking at to change. What I'm looking at is in the 7 swing states where if you look at the current polling, things are very close. And remember, in the last election, we had a couple of swing states that were decided by less than a percentage point. Sure. I mean, Georgia was only 11,000 votes. So I'm going to be looking at the snap polls that are going out right now in those swing states over the next couple of days. And that's where I'm curious to see if there's any movement there, if there are any independent voters that maybe either move toward Biden, which I don't think they will. I think they'll some might make a decision not to vote, or if some of the Trump voters that said that if they vote, they would have definitely voted for Trump, might now say, I'm just going to sit this one out. I'm not going to vote in this election. And that could, again, in very close swing states, that could actually decide the election. So that's what I'm going to be looking at.
And there's so many other factors too, from the economy to a host of other things too. But on a larger scale, do you think this further polarizes the nation?
Well, yes, it does. But the nation was already so polarized.
But even more,
it's kind of hard to polarize it even more than it does. And I think a lot of people kind of expected this verdict and kind of prepared for it. I mean, a lot of the Republican commentators, the Republican opinion commentators were saying that the system is rigged and they expected a conviction and they knew that this was going to come about. So opinions. This verdict is really not going to change anybody's opinion. The only thing I'm looking at to see as to whether or not certain Trump voters might choose to stay at home. That's going to be my focus over the next few days, to see if we see some movement there, within the polling, and people say, I'm just going to sit this election out, because again, in one of those swing states that are going to be decided maybe by a percentage point or 2 or 3, if 10 or 11% of the Trump voters decide simply to stay home, that could throw the election one way or another. So that's going to be the issue, I do believe.
And obviously there's plenty of time before Election Day in November. I mean, a lot can happen. We still have the sentencing in July, so it remains to be seen what will happen with that.
Yes.
And I think one more thing I wanted to ask you is, based on what happened today, does that add even more importance to, if he's the official Republican nominee, which is expected, in selecting a vice president candidate?
Yes, it's important.
Does it impact that decision now?
Well, It does impact that decision because I think Trump's advisors, not that he listens to his advisors, I don't think he does, but his advisors are going to start telling him probably we need to pick somebody from one of those swing states because we expect we might have some recalcitrant voters in those swing states. So maybe can you pick somebody from a swing state to kind of get us over the edge and get us those extra couple of percentage points that we might lose. Now, that being said, generally speaking, all of our research says that people vote for the top of the ticket, not for the bottom of the ticket. Generally speaking, so vice presidents don't win you the White House. The top of the ticket wins you the White House. But could it make a difference in a swing state if you were to pick somebody who's, let's say, a home state senator or a home state congressman? It could get you, a couple of extra percentage points, sure. So I mean, I'm sure his advisors will advise him to look at that, to look at somebody who has the function of bringing in more votes rather than somebody who just agrees with him ideologically. Whether or not he'll listen to that, I don't know.
All right, Robert Collins, thank you so much for joining us once again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are again waiting the district attorney's news conference that will be happening anytime now.